Hello everyone, good day. I am Lalani Crispin, your student instructor for today's review. So today we will discuss the fresh benefit tax in third tax treatment. So our objectives in our lesson is that you will be able to identify the taxable and untaxable fringe benefits. Second, we will be going to apply these tax rules and treatment for various types of fringe benefits and calculate these monetary values in fringe benefits. So if you're ready, let's start. So we'll begin our discussion by defining what is a French benefit. So a French benefit is any good, service, or other benefit furnished or granted by an employer in cash or in kind, in addition to the basic salary received by an individual employee. So when we say a French benefit, this is not the usual regular compensation received by an employee, but rather an additional to the normal or regular compensation, let's say French benefit. Okay, so this can be in cash or in kind. Okay, so there are a lot of examples or types of French benefits that an employee might be receiving by from his employer. And we will differentiate those French benefits because they are also taxed differently according to their position held by an individual employee. So for income tax purposes, it is necessary to distinguish a ranking file and a managerial or supervisorial employee. Why? Because they are taxed differently. So we have here the manager or supervisor versus the rank and file employee. So why do we need to differentiate um, the manager or supervisor from a rank and file? Again, the reason is that they are taxed differently on the French benefits they receive. So for the managerial and supervisory employee, they are actually subject to, we call this French benefit tax, which is a final tax. Whereas a rank and file employee, they are not subject to that final tax. Rather, these French benefits are added to their usual compensation and are taxed as the same. Okay, so later we'll discuss the differences between the tax for managerial or supervisor employee and rank and file. So as for now, we have to remember that managers and supervisors receiving French benefits will be subject to French benefit tax, whereas this rank and file are not. Okay, so who is a manager? A managerial employee is vested with powers or prerogatives to lay down and execute management policies and or to hire, transfer, suspend, lay off, recall, assign, or discipline employees. So when we say manager, they are in the management position. They are holding management position and they are responsible to make or to draft policies to execute these management policies, to hire these people, to lead the people. Okay, so these are the managerial employees. On the other hand, when we say the supervisory or supervisor employees, these are those who in the interest of their employer effectively recommend such as managerial actions. If the exercise and such authority is not merely routinary or clerical in nature, but require the use of independent judgment, then they are subject to the managerial employee. So when we say supervisor, these are people, okay? These are people in the organization who recommends the actions through the management. So they are not the usual people under the management who are doing clerical jobs. Like for example, okay, the accountant who's doing the clerical jobs. Okay, so when we say chief of internal audit or the chief audit executive, these are people who will be considered as a managerial employees or supervisor employees because they recommend actions to the management to improve their operations. So they require professional and independent judgment. So that is a manager and a supervisoral employee. Anyone who does not have those authorities and responsibilities are considered rank and file. Okay. So next is the rank and file employee. On the other hand, these are the people who are not managers or supervisor employers. So rank and file employees do not recommend management policies. Okay. So they are not execute those policies and certainly they do not recommend managerial actions. Their work is purely ordinary and critical. So if you are not a manager or you are not having the responsibility of being a supervisor, then you are, of course, belong to this rank and file employee. So next are the examples of taxable French benefits. Under the tax code, the following shall be regarded as taxable French benefits. So number one, we have here the housing. So if your employer gives you a free house, a housing lot, for example, then that is a French benefit. If you are given, let's say, free house rent, if you are given a condominium unit for free living, then that is a French benefit. We also have an expense account. So if you are given free allowances, let's say for example a monthly grocery, then that is a French benefit. So if you're a manager and then you are receiving free gas in your fuel every month, then that is a French benefit. If you are having a postpaid phones, then that is also a French benefit. Okay, so anything received by the employee other than the regular remunerations or compensation is considered as French benefits. Vehicles of any kind. So, for example, if you work as a manager and then it will be awkward for you to not be owning a vehicle, then your employer is giving you a free vehicle for you for your own, then that is a French benefit. Okay, so any kind of vehicle. And then we have here the household personality. So for example, as part of the contract, you are given by your employer a housemaid, to help you with a personal chores or something, then that is also a French benefit, provided that this employer is paying this housemaid. Okay, so we also have here the interest on loans at a lower interest rate than the market rate. So for example, your employee and then you loan. You borrowed an amount from your employer and instead of imposing high r- interest rates, you have to pay. For example, you have to pay only minimum or lower rate, then the difference between the market rate and the rate being posed is what we call French benefit. So, for example, if you borrowed 1,000 peso, I mean 100,000 pesos, and then supposedly the market rate for that loan is 10%, then your employer said that you will be paying only 1% interest, then that is actually a French benefit because you have saved yourself from paying 9% interest. Okay. So another example of taxable French benefits is that we have the membership fees, dues, and other expenses shouldered by the employer for the employee in social and athletic clubs or other similar organizations. So, for example, in social and athletic clubs or other similar organization. So, for example, also, you're an accountant and then you're a member of PICPA, the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants. And then we have this annual registration for annual membership fee of I think 1,000 something or 1,000 plus. Okay. And then your employer shoulder this due, this membership due. Then that is a French benefit. And we have here the expense for foreign travel. So, for example, if you are sent outside of the country for just a travel only, not really a seminar, but just a travel, okay? A vacation, for example, all expenses paid by all expenses are paid by your employer, then that is a French benefit. Okay, so another holiday and vacation expenses. So, for example, during Christmas and aside from the usual Christmas bonus and gifts, you're given certain benefits and it's a cash, for example. Then your employer give you a Christmas bonus such as cash. So that is also a French benefit. Next to it is a educational assistance to the employee of his dependents. So, for example, if your work requires you to have a master's degree, okay, and then your employer wants you to pursue this master's degree or doctorate degree because it would help you to improve your professional and personal career, then that is a French benefit. Or if you have a child and then your employer pays his tuition, then that is a French benefit. Life or health insurance and other non-life insurance premium or similar accounts in excess of what the law allows. So in our current law, we are required, the employers are required, okay, to have a big housing development or mutual fund, and then SSS contribution. Also, to have a PhilHealth. So aside from this, your employer secured an insurer and life insurance for yourself. So for example, he's secured from Sun Life and then it's for yourself. Then it's for your own. And that is also belong to the French benefit. Okay, the monthly premium paid by your employer for you in your behalf is considered also as a French benefit. So on the other hand, we also have this non-taxable French benefits. Number one, the following should be considered as non-taxable French benefit. So we have French benefits which are authorized and exempted from tax under special laws. So again, as I have said earlier, there are some items which are really non-taxable. Like for example, SSS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth. That is non-taxable. For example, in this case, I have mentioned earlier that if you are given a free housing, then that is a taxable French benefit. But for example, if your employer gives you a free housing in one condition, that you'll be able to come to work as early as possible for his convenience, for your employer's convenience, then that is a non-taxable French benefits. Why? Because it is not really your own convenience. It is not you who is being benefited from such housing. It is your employer. Another example, I have mentioned earlier that if you are given a car by your employer, that is a taxable French benefits. However, for example, if your employer gives you this car, so you'll be able to come to work on on call or during Saturdays or Sundays or weekends. So that your employer can call you anytime and that you can get to work anytime whenever he wanted to, then that is not for your own benefit. Okay, that is your employer's convenience. So um another example, for your employer, I mean, uh your employer's refers to the previous example. In if your employer will give you a car, okay, but you have to return this car every day in our or in your basement or in the company's premises, meaning to say you have to come to work on your own and you can only use that car when you are here or when you are currently working in that company. All right, then that is certainly not a benefit in your part, of course. So that is a non-taxable French benefit because it is for your employer's convenience. Okay, so always take note that if the benefit is for your employer's convenience, then that is not a taxable French benefits. For example, another, we have this kasambahay, the housemaids. They are required to stay in to stay their bosses. Okay, they are given free meals, they are given free housing, they are given personal things, and these things are actually not for their own benefits. Their employers give this benefit so that their presence are here in this house, in their employer's house. Okay, so that is the convenience of the employers. Hence, non-taxable French benefits. Okay, so we have also here the contribution of the employer for the benefit of the employee to retirement. Okay, so insurance and hospitalization benefit plans. So we have discussed in our gross income part under exclusions certain items which are non-taxable. Okay, we also have benefits given to the ranking file, whether granted under a collective bargaining agreement or not, provided that the total benefits did not exceeded 90,000 pesos. Any benefit, the 13th month pay and other benefits received by everyone with a ranking file, okay, um, or managerial employees, any benefits not exceeding 90,000 pesos will always be exempted from the tax. Okay. So for example, if you are a ranking file employee and you are receiving grocery allowance per month. And then the total amount in 1 year, let's say for example, does not exceed 90,000 pesos. Then the entire amount is non-taxable. Okay? But the total amount exceed 90,000, let's say it's 100,000. Then only the excess of 100,000 of 10,000 rather, kasi 100,000 less uh, times mo siya sa less 90,000, then the excess will be 10,000. So this 10,000 shall be subjected to the income tax. Okay, and finally we have here the de minimis benefits. So for this de minimis benefits, these benefits are actually small value. These are benefits provided by the employers to their employees on top of the basic salary, intended for the health, peace, morality, and safety of the employees. So these benefits have a relatively small value, which is regulated by the law. So, okay, this so are how we uh, how we compute the tax benefits. I mean, these are the classification of uh, identification of our tax French benefits. Again, we focus our discussion here for managerial and rank and file employees. So if you are a manager or a rank and file, any benefits I have mentioned earlier are subject to French benefit tax, which is the final tax. By the way, if you are a manager or supervisor employee, whereas if you are a ranking file, then these benefits are subject to the normal tax. However, provided that the total amount exceeded 90,000 pesos again and again. Okay, so what about the tax rate? For managerial and supervisor employees, we have here the 35% and the 25%. So take note of these two French benefit tax rate, okay? Because this is very important for you to solve this. So, who will be subjected to the 35% final tax? It says here that if you are a resident citizen, or if you are a non-resident citizen or resident alien or non-resident alien engaged in trade or business. So again, we have already known what are this or who are the citizens and aliens in our previous discussion. Okay, so if you belong to those four people, then you will be subjected to 35%. However, if you are in the resident alien, not engaged in trade or business, then you will be subjected to 25% final tax rate. If, however, you are a ranking file, again, you will be subject to the normal tax, provided that this total benefits exceeded 90,000 pesos. If the total benefits of a French benefits do not exceed 90,000 pesos, then the entire amount is exempted. Okay. So any excess of the French benefit over 90,000 limit shall be subject to the normal graduated rates ranging from 20% to 35%. So next, how is French benefit tax computed? So this is the formula of the French benefit tax. Okay, it is French benefit tax is equals to the gross of monetary value times the tax rate and the 35% or 25%. And what is, by the way, the gross of monetary value? So a gross monetary value is computed as monetary value divided by 100 minus the tax rate. Okay, so it is important that you have known already who is the who is the person or the proper classification of the taxpayer. Is he a resident citizen or is it a alien or another alien? Okay, so that you will know what tax rate is applicable. So again, this is how we compute the gross of monetary value. We have monetary value divided by 100% minus the tax rate. So the next question would be, what is a monetary value? Okay, so in the succeeding slides, we will show you, or I will show you, how to compute the monetary value. So let's have first the cash benefits. So when I say cash benefits, these are benefits received in cash. Kasi cash benefits nga. And the monetary value when the benefits given is in the form of cash. So the monetary value is equals to the face amount or the value received. So if you are a manager or a supervisor and then you receive 10,000 cash, then that is a monetary value. The face amount, if you receive a 20,000, then that is a monetary value. The face amount of the cash received. So illustration. Eliza is a Filipino, the manager of ABC company received a cash benefit of 39,000. The French benefit tax is computed as follow. So first step, as we have seen here, we have already here the cash benefit, okay? The cash benefit is equals to 39,000, and that is our monetary value. So the next step is to compute the gross up monetary value. So our solution would be gross up monetary value of GMV is equals to monetary value of MV divided by 100% minus 35%. So first, why 35%? Because Eliza is a resident citizen and she's a Filipino. So 35%. So next up is the GMV is equals to 39,000. That is a monetary value divided by to the 65%. 100 minus 35 is equals to 65%. So once we get the GMV of 60,000, we can now compute the French benefit tax. So let's apply the formula of the French benefit tax is equals to the GMV times the tax rate. So that would be 60,000 times the 35%. So the French benefit tax is 21,000. Okay, so now you might be asking, who pays the tax here? Okay, actually, the amount received of Eliza is only 39,000. Eliza is very thankful because she received 39,000 pesos from her employer. So now, the question, who pays the tax? Of course, it was Eliza because she is the taxpayer. But Eliza actually did not know that she was subject to tax. Why? Why? Because once she received the money, the 39,000, she doesn't know that she already paid the tax, okay? Because the actual benefit received by Eliza is not 39,000 but rather 60,000 pesos. That is the entire amount of benefit received by Eliza, okay? However, the employer will deduct this French benefit tax first before the employer would give this cash to Eliza. Why? Why would the employer do that? Because French benefit tax is a final tax, meaning to say, before the taxpayer, before Eliza received the money, the tax was already deducted. Okay, so means to say that the gross up monetary value, the GMV, is actually be the exact amount of benefit received by the taxpayer. But since the taxpayer only received the monetary value there is a net amount of the French benefits. Okay, so 60,000 minus the 20,000 French benefit tax, and that is the monetary value. GMV minus MV, that is a French benefit tax. GMV minus the French benefit tax, that is a monetary value tax. Monetary. Eliza is no longer required to declare the 39,000 on income tax return. So Eliza is no longer required to subject to report this 39,000 on her income tax return. Because this 39,000 income, this was already subjected to tax, to French benefit tax, which is a final tax. So it is already safe that Eliza would not know that she already paid the tax, but the employer, okay, the other side, the employer knows that Eliza already paid the tax. So who would pay the tax to the BIR? Who would remit? Who would give the tax here to the BIR? Of course, the employer, because is the one who's holding the tax. Okay? I hope you get that. So since fresh benefit tax is a final tax, the employee is no longer required to report such income on her income tax return, as I have said. Also, the employer is withholding its French benefit tax to the BIR. So the entries on the books of the employer upon giving or upon releasing or issuing the French benefits to Eliza would be payroll, payroll expense account, that is a French benefits, equals to 60,000, and that is the gross up monetary value. We also have here a credit of withholding tax payable 21,000 and the cash, okay? So this withholding tax payable 21,000 is actually the 35% French benefit tax, which must be paid and remitted by the employer to the BIR. So when the employer would remit this amount to the BIR, would record on his books as debit withholding payable, and that is and credit 1,000. So again, these journal entries we have here in green is the entry that would be the books of the employer upon giving to Eliza the benefit, okay, the cash benefits, and upon remittance of the withholding tax to the BIR. The journal entry would be debit withholding tax payable and credit cash for an amount of 21,000 pesos. Okay, so aside from cash benefits, we have also the housing and other properties. So when the benefit given to a managerial supervisor employee is a housing or property, the following rules should apply. So when we say housing or a real properties, this can be a land or warehouse or bird buildings or whatever real properties that is given by the employer to their employees. So their employees. So there are certain rules. So when there is a transfer of ownership, title to the employee, when the entire property is given to the employee, okay, the title of the house and lot, or the title of transfer, or shall we say the usufructory rights. Okay, so what is the use of usufructory right? So we will know that later. So these are things we need to consider, and we will think them. So in the first case, the entire ownership of the real property or the employee. Okay, so As in the second scenario, only the use of such or real property housing is being granted to the employee. Okay, so magkaiba sila. Ownership and use. What is the different rules? So if the title of the ownership is transferred to the employee, then our monetary value is equals to the fair market value, assessed value, horizontal value, and whichever is the highest amount of the property received by the employee, that will be the amount we will be going to choose. Okay. So, for example, if you are a manager and you are given a house and lot by your employer, and then this consists of a fair value. This house and lot is 6 million for the fair value, and for the zonal value amount is only 4 million. Value naman is 7 million. So what amount will be choose? 6 million, the 4 million, or the 7 million. Therefore, it is the monetary value will be 7 million, and that is our assessed value because among the three, that is amount. So the assessed value and zone things that we must be going to for choosing the amount in our um, uh, first formula that is given. So you will only use that property for okay. So however, if you are given this property for only to use that property, okay, you will not own that property, then you will only use that property for for 20 years or 10 years after. Then after the 20 years or 10 years after, you go to the company and you will return this property, and because is intended only for use, then you will going to return that real property. So how do we compute that? So the monetary value will be again the same as what we discussed. Fair market value or assessed value or horizontal is the highest level is always like in the first scenario. The highest will be choose that by 20 years. So why 20 years? Because our local government code real properties has an 20 years. So when the real property, a house or a building or whatever, as long as it's divide that by 20 years. Okay. Okay. So then since it is only the right to use the property, then divided by 2. Okay. We need uh by 2. First, in the second, you are not entitled to land. Okay. You uh you are not owner of the property because you are only there to use that property right after uh right after the 20 years or whatever, right, yeah, or how many years pa na i-intend ni company. And then and then uh um why divided by 2? Okay, why divided by 2? Because there are two owners of the property. Number one, your employer who owns the title and ownership of the property. Second, there's you, the right to use that property. So uh, total of 2. The one who possess the right to use that property, so hence we will going to divide it by 2. So that's how you compute the monetary values for real properties. So again, when the entire property, when the title is transferred to you as an employee, then the entire market value, the horizontal value, and assessed value is the monetary value. Okay, but if you are only there to use the property and you will return that property back to your employer, then that is a monetary value. And we will be computed as fair value or assessed value or zone horizontal value, or the highest among the three divided by 20 divided by 2. Okay, so simple, basic. Example, JHR company already gave the following to Barbara, 2019. It's very competitive manager. It was Barbara. So we have here the house in Cebu. Construction cost is shouldered by the GHR company. So there was a house constructed in the cost was shouldered by the company. There was also a lot where the house was erected, where usufruct of 30 years is given. So Barbara is given a lot, and then that lot where her house was erected, was constructed, is only given to her for use. Okay? So ibabalik ninyo ni Barbara kasi usufruct din siya. The land is only for for how many years? For 30 years. Barbara should return the land to the company, which is the JHR company. So at the same time, the house was constructed using the company's cash or company's money. For how much? It is 3 million. Okay, so we have also the agricultural land where the title is transferred to the title of this agricultural land by Barbara. So let us compute the French benefit tax. So let us first ask ourselves, is a Barbara is a manager? So the answer here is yes. Therefore, Barbara is subject to a French benefit tax. Second question, is Barbara a resident citizen? So when we going to check our illustration, there's nothing said. Okay, so what would be the tax here if the problem is silent? And so in this case, always use the higher tax rate, and that is how much? The 35%. Why? Because the burden of the proof of having the lower rate rests on Barbara. So we should assume not to assume the lower rate but the higher rate. So the BI, because the BIR needs a lot of money. So next question is, which of these three properties given by the company is subject to the monetary value, which is subject to entire title or usufructory only? So for the house, we know that the entire house was shouldered by the company in this Barbara's house. Therefore, the entire amount of 3 million is the monetary value. Okay. So the second is, how about the land? So since it is said that it is for 30 years, then that is for use only. Therefore, the computation here is we will be going to divide that by 20 years and divide it by 2. And then the next, we have here the agricultural land. The title was transferred, therefore the entire amount, the 900, is subject to our monetary values. So how do we compute tax? So first, we'll compute the monetary values, and that is uh, the house in Cebu. So the entire 3 million. So the land here is 4.5 divided by 20 years divided by 2. So when we compute that, the total amount of 4 4,500,000 divided by 20. So the total amount of 112,500. And then we have here the small agricultural land and the title was transferred. So that's 900,000. The entire amount is our monetary value. So our total monetary values here is 4,012,500. So now we have here the monetary values. The next step is to compute our gross up monetary value. And that is GMV is equals to monetary value divided by 100% minus the applicable rate, and we know that is 35%. So you have 4,012,500 divided by 100 minus 35. So we have here the gross up monetary value of 6,173,076 pesos and 92 centavos. Okay. So after we have the gross monetary value, now let's compute the French benefit tax. And that is our formula, GMV times the tax rate. So we have here the 6 million times the 35%, our French benefit tax, and that is 2,000,001 okay, 2,160,576.92. Okay, so that's how we compute our French benefit tax. And again, you would ask, okay, who pays the tax here? Again, it's Barbara. But Barbara did not know that she was actually paying the tax because before this amount are received by Barbara, the employer already computed the tax. So basically, there's no cash involved on the part of Barbara. Barbara did not pay something to his or her employer. Nothing. No disbursement on the part of Barbara. Barbara is only received this amount, these benefits, okay? Because before the employer give these benefits to Barbara, the employer already deducted the tax. So if you are employer or if you are the employer, you should be thinking first, because if I am the employer, I should be careful when giving the French benefits, because if I will give more benefits, then I will be shoulder more. If I will pay the tax and I will pay the 2 million, okay? The manager, the employee did not give me something to pay the tax, okay? So I will be required to do that. By the way, it might be you asking what if the manager would not declare this taxes in French benefit, and that is a no. That is a tax evasion, because if the employer would not declare this, then and it would he or she will not file and remit the tax, the 2 million, then the employer cannot deduct this as an expense or benefit. Okay, so that should not be done. The employer should pay the tax. So how will this be recorded in the employer's book? So again, payroll expense, which is the equivalent to the GMV, the gross monetary value. Debit, the uh, credit withholding tax payable, we have here 1,160,576.92, and then credit the benefits, total of 4,012,500. Okay, so that is for the real properties. So how about if the benefits given is a vehicle or a personal properties? So we have here the automobiles in other personal properties, where the benefit given to the managerial position professional employee is in an automobile or other personal properties. So the following rule shall apply. So again, when there is a title transfer of ownership and only for use, then again, like in the real properties, if the entire ownership is given to the employee, then the monetary value is equal to the acquisition cost. If personal property is or the current market value, if that property is a second time, okay, for example, because it was acquired ago and then the value today is higher, therefore market value will be our basis, and then the cash value of our properties acquired were the person shoulder by the employer. Okay, so if only the use of rock was granted, meaning the employer is not but it is only for granted to use this property, then the monetary value is equal to the acquisition cost or the current market value of the value, or the cash value divided by 5. So why 5 years? Because according to the government code, personal property to be depreciated for how many years? 4 5. Any personal properties 5 years. Real properties 20 years. Okay, take note of that. This is a use of rock divided by this personal. Okay, so again, the personal properties is 5 years, and the real properties is for only for 20 years. Okay, so and since this is a use of rock, then again divided by 2. So why divided by 2? Because there are two owners. So the owner of the enter property and the personal property, your employer, because anyway your employer has the right to get back the property because it is not yours, it's not registered to the company, right? So actually company owns that property, so the title is owned by the employer, whereas the right to use is owned by the employee. Okay, so that's why there are two users here, hence divided by 2. Okay, so again, if it's personal property and that's only for use of rock given for AC or CMV or fair value or cash current value, divided by uh, 5 years and divided by 2. Okay, whereas if it's entire properties given to the employee, then the entire value is a monetary value. Example, JHR company gave the following to Dominic, its supervisor during 2019. So we have here the Toyota Innova, where only the use of such is given to use. So that is using a use of rock. A MacBook Pro of 170,000. So let's compute the French benefit tax. So there are only two items here, the MacBook Pro and the Toyota Innova. So the first item, the Toyota Innova, is granted to Dominic for only to use. So hence you'll divide that by 6, 5 years, and divided by 2. And the MacBook Pro, which is a personal property also, and the entire item is given to Dominic. Therefore, the 170 is our monetary value. So our solution would be first to compute the monetary values. We have here the Toyota Innova 16 divided by 5 divided by 2. We have 160,000. And we have also here the MacBook Pro, the enter amount, the 170, and the total values is equals to 330,000 pesos. So after we get the monetary value, it's time for us to compute the gross up monetary value. Okay. So um by the way, what will be our um the applicable rate here? So it is not said whether Dominic is a resident citizen or what. So again, as what I have said earlier, always use the higher tax rate. And if you are confused, always remember that it was the higher tax rate um will be going to use. Okay. So the burden of the proof of having a lower tax rate is on the part of the taxpayer. So our gross up monetary value will be 507, 692.31. And after we get the GMV, we will now compute the French benefit tax. And that is GMV times French benefit tax 507,692.31 times the 35%. We have here the 177,000. 692.31. So that is a French benefit tax. So I hope you have mastered already the pattern, compute the monetary value, compute the GMV value, and compute the French benefit tax. So the monetary value is, it depends, okay? It depends if it's cash, that's the interface of amount. So if it's a real property, it depends also if it is transfer of ownership or transfer of use or fast or a I mean usufructory rate. Okay. So if it's ownership, then the entire fair value or assessed value or horizontal value, then the usufruct right, then divide, we will going to divide that by 20 and then divided by 2. So if it is personal property, then again they identify whether it is a title or use of the property. If it's the enter current value or acquisition cost. Okay, so if it's only used, then divided by 5 and divided by 2. Okay, so please take note of that. So next we have here the interest on loans. So when the benefit granted is in form of the interest forgiven by the employer in respect to a loan extended by the employer to the managerial or supervisory employee, the monetary value is equals to the difference between the market value and the actual rate granted. Okay, so if it is a loan and then there is a lower interest rate, then the monetary value is equals to the difference between the rate and the actual rate imposed. So when the interest is forgiven, the monetary value is equals to the prevailing market interest on the same loan. Why? Because basically market interest minus actual interest, that's market interest minus zero. Therefore the entire market interest is the monetary value. But if the loan bears only a lower interest compared to the prevailing market interest rate, then the monetary value is equals to the difference between the interest imposed and the prevailing interest. So next example. So we have here the example during 2019, the X and Y company granted 2 loans to Cesar, its manager, with the following data. So there are 2 loans here. Number one, an amount of 100,000. So on July 1 to 19, where it was agreed that the market interest of 10 will be forgiven, meaning to say for the entire 100,000, there will be no interest to be paid by Cesar. However, on the other loan, an amount of 2,000 October 1, 2019, which bears an interest of 3% compared to the market rate of 10%. So there's a little interest here, 3% compared to the market rate of 10%. So it's lower by 7%. So the monetary value for this loan is actually the 10% forgiven because Cesar benefits by not paying interest at all the entire 10%. However, the second loan only it's 7%. Then that's why 10% market rate less than 3% actual rate. So then Cesar benefits 7%. He saved himself from paying 7% on that second loan. So how do we compute the tax? So take note of the demands for the first loan. It was granted on July 1. Hence, we will count July, August, September, October, November, and December. So that is 6 months. Whereas for the second loan, it's October, November, December. So that is 3 months. So for the monetary values will be for loan 100,000 times 10 times 6 divided by 12%, that is 3,000. For loan 2, we have here the 50,000 times 7 times 3 divided by 12 months. So that is 875,000. So 875. With the total monetary value, we have here the 3,875. Again, why 10%? Because the entire interest is forgiven. That's 300,000. And for loan 2, we have 50,000 times 7% times 3 months over 12 months. So why 7%? Because the actual rate is lower by 7% compared to the market rate interest times 3. So hence the total monetary value is 3,875. Okay, so now let's check now if 875 50,000 times 0.07 times 3 divided by 12. Okay, that's correct. 875. So hence the total monetary is 300. Okay, so now let's have to compute our monetary value, and the next step is to compute the GMV. And that is again is what I said. We will assume the higher rate. So 3,875 divided by 100% minus 35%, that would be 5,961.54. And our French benefit tax would be the GMV times the French benefit of our tax rate. We have the 5,961.54 times the 35%. So the tax French benefit tax is 2,086.54. So that is our French benefit tax. Okay, so I hope you learned a lot from this video. That's all for today, folks, and thank you for watching.